amendment. I would ask that we table this for our next meeting, we have time on the schedule for it. I think everybody's a little bit worn out from tonight's meeting. So unless I hear any objections, I would ask that we move the multifamily transition development code to our next meeting. Commissioner Parker.
I support that, but I believe it might be most expeditious were I to issue an email that explains a little more about the very fine response by the city and what we need to focus on in looking at that issue from my perspective. So rather than take up time tonight, I'd rather have that email.
Thank you. Seeing no seeing no objections on the moving of the multifamily transitions to our next meeting, we will move into the next portion of the agenda, which is reports. So we'll go around the table, and then I do believe we need to take a few moments to discuss. The council and the Land Use Environment Committee have some work sessions that we need to have a conversation around. So actually, we might. Let's start there actually. Can you kind of brief us a little bit about the work sessions that are coming up and what you need from us?
Well, as you know, in February, the council chose a dozen or so, more than that, items that they wanted to talk more about before they have their public hearing, in order to provide some direction for what should be in a public hearing draft for then the public to comment on. And some of these are going to city council work sessions, and some of them are going to Land Use and Environment Committee work sessions. There has already been 3, and there's 2 more. The commission at a previous meeting discussed the items that have come before the council so far, but at for the Land Use Committee on April 17th, and for the council work session coming up on April 22nd, the commission has not yet wrapped their heads around the previous planning commission rationale to make sure that the planning commissioner who will be there to support the position and the recommendation of the planning commission is already made last year, is fully able to be expressed. And so the items left are for the Land Use Committee meeting on April 17th. We have Judy representing the Planning Commission on the view protection goals and policies, as well as Judy representing the urban green space and tree canopy. And then also that same night, I believe it's Roger representing the Planning Commission on the issue of alleyways. Is that right?
Not that I'm aware
Oh,
of.
okay. Okay, well, perhaps nobody volunteered for that
We
one.
never went.
Okay. Well, it's up to you guys if you want to choose somebody to be there or not. And I'll just add one more thing and then I'll stop talking. The second one is the council work session on April 22nd, and the 2 issues there would be represented, I believe, by Jerry Parker, and that has to do with street connectivity and the connection with Park Drive. Is that correct? On April 22nd?
Yeah. Yes.
And last thing I'll add is I do have the compilation of the written record from the Planning Commission's previous deliberation on these issues, these 5 issues, here with me tonight. If that is helpful, I'll pass it around for whoever.
So I guess just a quick thought. It sounds like we at least have maybe one conflict, that being that Commissioner Horn might not be represented on alleys, or at least was not planning on being represented on alleys. Does anybody else have?
I can be, but
Okay.
I don't think any of us initiated that or,
Yeah.
you know,
Can I make a comment? I just
Absolutely.
wonder, and I don't know if it's appropriate at all, but I think this came from the Heritage Commission. Or I wonder, because they sort of worked on at least the naming of the alleys when I went to one of their meetings, and I just wondered if that was something that they might speak to.
The actual policy issue is about requiring alleys, and I do believe that came out of the transportation recommendations that former Commissioner Larry Levine had originally put forward, and then the full commission accepted.
I would be more than willing to participate in that, since Larry and I worked together on that issue, if the commission wants me to.
I would just ask that, so I've got a little cheat sheet here, the Land Use Environment Committee on April 17th. Commissioner Barton would be speaking to view protections as well as green space and tree canopies, and then Commissioner Hahn would be speaking to alleys. On the council work session on the 22nd, Commissioner Parker would speak to street connectivity and the connection of Park Drive, using the rationale based from the staff and any other comments they might have. Unless I hear any objections to this, would people be okay with moving forward in that fashion? Commissioner Barton, would you like to speak to it?
So it's just the rationale that we used when we were doing the policies.
Yeah, so you're just kind of the face.
Yeah, you got it right, Judy,
And some of us did the background for that.
Exactly.
So we might be speaking to the discussion that came out.
So any objections to moving forward as prescribed? Seeing none, we'll move forward in that fashion. Thank you. Moving on to reports, Commissioner Horn.
I think this might be the right time for Judy and I to report on what happened
Oh, right.
at the last,
Okay.
LUEC meeting. Yeah,
Go for it.
where we were called up to discuss the issues that we were assigned for that night, which,
Can you mind using your mic real quick?
okay. Sorry about that.
No, don't worry.
So, what were the
Well,
two issues?
The one was the criteria for the rezones. And Leonard produced two charts, what we had originally had, that when we did it in December, I think it was December 16th. And then what we decided on, what was revised by Darren Nienauer. It was staff, and then we had a suggestion, which Roger brought forward, that we discussed at our last meeting, of some kind of buffer language. And so we put that forward, and I believe Land Use and Environment accepted the revised, our language, and then the revised goals that we had approved, but with staff's and Nienauer's suggestions, it's a little bit more streamlined. And if you want to go to the density, we also did.
Right, high density, we did high density neighborhoods, and it seemed like they were comfortable with our recommendations, but were not comfortable with the fact that mixed use and historic structures would be different, and they shouldn't be limited to 25, because we don't want to stop development of historic, or redevelopment of historic structures, and mixed use. So they asked staff to add that language into the proposal. But it actually was quite good. They invited Judy and I and me to come up to the table and sit there and talk with them, and I thought it went very well. They were pretty receptive to the ideas that we had talked about at the meeting before we went there. So I think the process of us talking about that and giving guidance to the people who attend the meetings is very useful. Great.
And my memory was, Councilmember Langer was concerned about historic buildings, and he didn't want them to have that density. He didn't think we should be and I don't know if that was ever our intent when we did